Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Well, this is an interesting day in the world. Um, we're not playing San Jose tomorrow, and we're not playing Ottawa Sunday. As a matter of fact, we're not doing a whole bunch of anything except talking to you in front of a mic in a now empty sports world. Blues Rants podcast. Let's just run the show and see where it goes. Let's do this thing. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special, edition of the Blues Rants podcast. I am your host, as always, Philip Miller, streaming to you live from Twitter and from YouTube. You can find all of our stuff, bluesrants.com, on Twitter, on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Tumblr, we're on the World Wide Web at bluesrants.com. So, kind of the big news that everybody has been talking about. NHL season has been suspended. Not canceled, as I freaked out and put in the episode title, but suspended due to the, of course, ongoing threat of COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. Pretty much everything got kicked off after the news yesterday that the NBA season had been canceled/postponed after a Utah Jazz player tested positive for the coronavirus, also gave it to a teammate, also just kind of completely fondled a bunch of mics after a post-game interview like a moron. Sorry, that was just idiotic of you. I didn't like Gabriel Landeskog doing that either. I don't know if any Avs fans saw that, but Gabriel Landeskog kind of did the same thing. He kind of did a little into the mic and, touched it a bit. Sorry for any audio listeners if that was atrocious there. But that was basically what got the ball rolling. Is the NBA is postponed. The NHL quite quickly postponed the season around noon Central Time today. In what can I only imagine was a Board of Governors meeting where Gary Bettman walked into the room and said, "So we're going to suspend the season. Do I have any objections? No? Okay, good meeting. NHL suspended." He did release a official statement today in light of ongoing developments resulting from the coronavirus, and after consulting with medical experts and convening a conference call of the Board of Governors, the National Hockey League is announcing today that it will pause the 2019-20 season beginning with tonight's games. The NHL has been attempting to follow the mandates of health experts and local authorities while preparing for any possible developments without taking premature or unnecessary measures. However, following last night's news that an NBA player has tested positive for coronavirus, and given that our leagues share so many facilities and locker rooms, and it now seems likely that some member of the NHL community would test positive at some point, it is no longer appropriate to try and continue to play games at this time. We will continue to monitor the appropriate medical advice, and we will encourage our players and other members of the NHL community to take all reasonable precautions, including by self-quarantine where appropriate. Our goal is to resume play as soon as it's appropriate and prudent so that we will be able to complete the season and award the Stanley Cup. Until then, we thank NHL fans for your patience and hope you stay healthy. Blues president Chris Zimmerman also gave a follow-up statement on the NHL effectively pushing the pause button on the NHL season. From CEO Chris Zimmerman, as many of you are aware, Commissioner Gary Bettman announced today that the National Hockey League has paused our season in light of ongoing developments resulting from the coronavirus. I can assure you that the St. Louis Blues and the NHL are following the mandates of health experts and local authorities to ensure that anyone who joins us for events at Enterprise Center and Stifel Theater are in a safe and healthy environment. We will continue to monitor all the appropriate medical advice and will encourage everyone affiliated with our organization and all of St. Louis to take reasonable and appropriate precautions. Our goal is to resume play and host other events as soon as it is appropriate. We expect to complete this season and defend the Stanley Cup. We are in constant communication with health experts, the city of St. Louis, and the NHL, and we will update you on further developments. Until then, we thank you for your patience and your support. Stay healthy and safe. We look forward to seeing you back at an event here very soon. So that's about all you can really say, I guess. The Blues obviously finished a decent game last night against the Anaheim Ducks. I guess we can talk about that one for a little bit. St. Louis won their emotional return game to Anaheim, the game that was rescheduled because of Jay Bouwmeester's cardiac episode. They defeated them 4-2. Ivan Barbashev and Henrique scored a month ago. And I saw plenty of terrible jokes. Oh, wow, he hasn't scored in almost a month. Yeah, very funny. But Adam Henrique and Ivan Barbashev officially got their goals credited last night after the completion of the game. We had Alex Pietrangelo added 2 goals, including the empty net goal. Zach Sanford added a tally on a rather questionable call. We'll get back into that later. But, yeah, if anybody actually stayed up till the crack of midnight, or if you're Gerard until, like 7:30 in the morning. Shout out to Gerard, Dutch Blues fan. Great follow on Twitter. That was essentially the last period of Blues hockey for a little while. And not because they were eliminated from the playoffs. Now, I haven't gotten the chance to look anything up. Obviously, this is a little bit of a brand new scenario. We obviously had the suspended season back in, what year was that? 2013, the 2012-13 season. And then, of course, we had the NHLPA lockout back in 03-04. I believe the season was either postponed or canceled way back in the early 1900s because of the Spanish flu. Basically, the last time we had an actual pandemic on our hands with disease. So this is kind of a new experience for probably a lot of us. Basically all of sports has been either postponed or canceled. The XFL was finally the last straw to break, as I noticed on my phone earlier that the Battlehawks also issued a statement that actually it sounds like it's done for what it sounds like. Looks like they're currently not going to play any of their regular season games. So the XFL, most recent to get canceled. The entire NCAA March Madness just got canceled. Obviously, they're still playing Serie A games over in Italy in front of empty buildings. Not sure if they're just going to end up canceling that altogether. The MLS got canceled. MLB spring training's been canceled, and opening week's been pushed back a few weeks. Opening day, I should say. I beg your pardon. The NBA obviously was the first league that broke. So sports are done. Sports are canceled. Concerts are canceled. I saw Green Day and Ozzy Osbourne and basically a whole bunch of different shows and tours got canceled because of the coronavirus. It's pretty much all nice and quiet. There has been a travel ban issued in the United States for the next month in terms of trying to travel to Europe. Donald Trump made that announcement yesterday on the news. So this is, and I'm not going to get political on here. I don't want to. I know the media has blown this up more than the coronavirus has actually blown up. I understand the HWO said we are in the midst of a global pandemic. I also understand the need to consider the safety of, at sometimes, 18,000 plus fans that go and pay tickets and sit in these stadium seats real close to one another. We're looking at you, TD Garden. I still get the feeling that, this was a little bit, overzealous. But at the same time, I can still understand at some point you have to think for the better of the people. And once it got to the point where an NBA player had coronavirus, when an actual player had coronavirus, okay, it's sure, fine, I get it. I mean, again, like Gary Bettman mentioned in his statement, there's a lot of teams that share facilities with one another. For example, I'm pretty sure the Toronto Raptors share, is it Rogers Arena over in Canada with another team? Just trying to think off the top of my head if there are any other rinks as far as the NHL goes. I can think of a few stadiums that are, interchangeably. Houston Astros, for instance, they're hosting the Dallas Renegades, the Texas Rangers, wrong MLB team. The Texas Rangers' old stadium is now where the Dallas Renegades are playing in the XFL. So basically everything from collegiate sports to international sports to the big 4/5 in America is basically done, at least for the foreseeable future. Will it be a month? Will it be a couple months? No one really seems to know. This is a story that's kind of just been updated almost hourly, it seems. For now, before I really get into the sports side and into the hockey side, I'll just remind everybody to wash your hands. Just stop listening right now. Go wash your hands for 20 seconds. I'll wait. Not really. I'm not going to have dead air. But again, you guys just remember to be safe, be smart. Don't be stupid. Don't be touching microphones and licking subway poles. Be smart about this, guys. Don't buy all the toilet paper and air gas masks in the world. That's not going to help necessarily. I'm pretty sure if it's a virus, so if the cause of infection is not going to reach you with that mask, but it's not helping you to have that mask on if you're not infected. It's to prevent infection from spreading from you, not infection spreading to you. So, yes, again, hand sanitizer, I believe the alcohol percentage has to be something over 30% for it to really be effective. But main thing at the end of the day, start washing your hands and be smart about it. I'm not getting to the point where, I think I have to go out in public wearing rubber gloves and, filling at a pump with rubber gloves on my hands and everything like that. But be smart and be safe. And hope and pray that this ends up going away at the long end of the short of it. And again, I think that I believe, there's still a decent amount of people recovering from the coronavirus already. I think there's been some 50,000 cases of recovery already in China. But of course, the death toll now is, I think, over 1,000. And it's, again, the media has done so many different things. I feel like I can't trust anything I'm reading, which that alone should be the scary part. I cannot go one day without reading or hearing something about the coronavirus and then just going, is it for real or is it not? I mean, I'm seeing all these tweets from different doctors and different Facebook messages, and I got emails. I get emails from my DOT manager at work the other day on how to stop the coronavirus. He sourced the guy who claims to have been doing research on the stems of the specific virus since the 90s, but again, I have no idea what's for real and what's not. I don't know why I'm just looking at the CDC and just ignoring everything else that's thrown in front of me. But all the same, going back to the sports side, not trying to spin it into a positive, I guess. I will spin it into a positive a little later. But if you think in terms of, just think first about the revenue. I mean, imagine, this is billions and billions of dollars just for one sport, almost just for one franchise, even. There's billions and billions of dollars lost in ad revenue, in sponsorships, in ticket sales alone, in concessions, in, like in-store merchandising, whatever you want to call it. This is a huge, huge, significant deal, financially at least, for all sports. It's craziness. How much of it is warranted? I don't know. I can't tell you. But it's all the same. It's grown from, this will be over and done with, like the flu, to, okay, now we're starting to really set in a little bit of panic here. Again, warranted or not. I guess as far as, this is one thing that I do like, as far as trying to spin a positive on all this. There's so much parity specifically in the NHL right now. And I'll give you a little update on the standings as we basically approach this hiatus. You've got Boston, that's the first team and only team with 100 points. They've been running away with it. Likely President's Trophy candidates. Then you have St. Louis with 94. You got Colorado, Colorado, Tampa with 92. Washington with 90. Philadelphia right behind them with 89. Pittsburgh and Vegas with 86. And so on and so forth. In the Central Division, you've got the Blues with 94, the Avalanche with 92, the Stars with 82. They've fallen off a lot now that I look at that. I want to check their record here in a second. But the Winnipeg Jets with 80, the Nashville Predators with 78, the Minnesota Wild with 77, and the Chicago Blackhawks with 72. In the Western Conference, the wild card race looks like this. You have St. Louis, Colorado, and Dallas are safe. Vegas, Edmonton, Calgary are safe. Oh, gosh, guys, whenever the playoffs actually start, we could have Edmonton and Calgary in the first round. And even if they're playing in front of an empty stadium, I want nothing more in this life. The Blues got their one cup. Okay, I'm good. We got our Stanley Cup. I'd love another one. I'd really, really love another one. But Edmonton, Calgary, Battle of Alberta. In the words of Steve Dangle, go on a Google Maps and find me the lie when I say you want that more than you want the Blues winning another Stanley Cup. As a hockey fan, that's going to be awesome if that actually happens. Oh, I cannot wait. That would be so much fun. But getting back into the wildcard race, you've got Vegas, Edmonton, Calgary over in the Pacific Division. Then leading the wildcard, you have Winnipeg with 80, and you have Vancouver and Nashville tied with 78. I'd have to check the standings, but I believe the tie would go to Vancouver. Then you have the Coyotes with 74 and the Wild with 77. Those are really the only two teams left in that race. But still, you've got 4 teams within 3 points of each other for the 2 wild card spots. And now Winnipeg's caught up on Dallas. Winnipeg is 2 points behind third place Dallas. Again, the race is absolutely crazy. And when you give the entire league just a month off, I can see it being a double-edged sword, just like the All-Star break. You're not allowed to go to your training facilities. You're not allowed to go into your gyms and practice and things like that. You're basically restricted to walking into an Anytime Fitness and working out on your own. Which, depending on where you live, I wouldn't even want to be doing that, to be honest with you. Going to a sweaty gym where everybody's working out and already sweaty and gross and could possibly have the coronavirus. But there's a double-edged sword with that. But remember, for the Blues, our prodigal son was nearing his return. And now you give him a full month to just rest, recuperate that shoulder, and get ready. Yes, I'm referring to Vladimir Tarasenko. And then you look over at Colorado, who just lost their top skater for 2 to 4 weeks. You've got Steven Stamkos with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's been out for a while. Seth Jones with Columbus. Their superstar. One of the reasons they basically almost, I say almost, fallen out of the race. And speaking of race over in the Eastern Conference, check out the wild card over there. Carolina and Columbus for the first wild card spot with 81 each. Then New York with 80. Then the Rangers, the New York Rangers with 79. The New York Rangers are second last in their division, and they are 2 points out of a wild card spot. Tell me that is not the most topsy-turvy thing you've ever heard of. And yeah, if you're Florida or if you're Toronto, who Toronto now has a 3-point lead over the Panthers for third in the Atlantic. If you're Toronto or Tampa and you don't make it, yeah, you're going to bellyache and bitch and moan and whatever. But all the same, this amount of parity is incredible, and this it's such a bow on a wild and ridiculous season that we've already seen. Especially for St. Louis. We've seen a defenseman go down in a total freak of nature accident. We've seen an all-star game with literally a maximum 4 players representing the home squad, which I was at and was a lot of fun. We've got a Stanley Cup defending team that very much looks like a repeat is possible as they're second in the league. You've got a goaltender that almost slipped for like 2 seconds and we freaked out, but now he's back in business and everybody's happy again. And you've got a goaltender that everybody was leaving for dead 3 years ago, and now he's come back and he's better than Mad Max. He's better than Mad Max Road Warrior. Jake Actual Snake Allen. Making history against Chicago, getting second all-time now in shutouts and in wins, and he could handily take first before his career is over in St. Louis. And just think, you give everybody a month, you give all the players that are injured. I gotta think right now that Columbus is just praising Jesus right now for what's happened. Have you seen their man games lost? Like Columbus, Toronto, and Pittsburgh are just bowing down before the hockey gods that they just might be able to get people healthy and get them back into the lineup and all of a sudden be superstars again. That is going to be a lot of fun no matter what the playoff matchups are this season. I mean, look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia went off and ran with a 9-game winning streak. LA came out of nowhere and won 8 in a row, although I think their playoff hopes are still kind of dashed. They're 10-plus points out. You got the San Jose Sharks in dead last in the Pacific Division. Who thought that would happen? I guess I suspected it a little. I mean, you lose Captain Joe Pavelski, and you've got one of the oldest cores in the NHL, probably the oldest. And you've got Patrick Marleau, who is wanting to be the next Jaromir Jagr and unfortunately just not doing well. And you've got Brent Burns, who's still Brent Burns. And you've got Jumbo Joe Thornton, who almost got traded but didn't. It's a crazy time in the league right now. It's a crazy time in all of sports. This time in particular might be unprecedented. I'd have to look into that history with the I think it was the Spanish flu back in the early 1900s and see how that affected the rest of sports, because I know for a fact that they canceled basically the entire season because of that. Also, by the way, guys, we still don't know what the freaking name for Seattle's team is. Like, they have been dead quiet since the trade deadline. And we were thinking like All-Star game, they would come out with their team name. I don't care if it's Kraken or Sockeyes at this point. I just want something. Give me something to enjoy. Give me some team colors. Come on. I want to see what it is. But depending on how the next month and a half goes, I suppose it'll be really interesting as well for the Blues to talk about the expansion draft as well. Because now I'm looking into their cap-friendly page. And by the way, we also got a hint of what the salary cap might be, whether it's 84 to 88 million is what they're projecting. Guys, have you been following the stock market lately? I mean, this might go down. It might go down from 83.2, excuse me. Or no. What's the salary cap? Why can't I just find a number for the salary cap? It might go down from today's salary cap to even lower. Like, we might go down into the 80s. Just a straight up 80 million salary cap. In opposed to the 84 to 88 we heard less than a month ago. Has it not felt like it's been forever since this whole coronavirus thing has popped up? Nobody was talking about this in December. No one. No one was concerned about this in December, in January. We weren't concerned about it in February. And now classes and schools are closed left and right all over the country. All the leagues are done for a while. But so looking into the salary cap for the Blues, and of course we talk some more about trying to re-sign Alex Pietrangelo. You've got Jay Bouwmeester that comes off the books for good, even though he's on LTIR. He comes off the books for good next year. I gotta think, based on hearing his post-game comments, or his press conference comments when he finally spoke to the media after his episode, I gotta think that he's done. I mean, he's very aware of that ICD. Sometimes he loses, sometimes he forgets about it, but I know he's still very aware of that. And again, like, you're playing one of the most physically taxing sports ever. I know you're an athletic guy, but you're over 35. Your contract's coming off the books. You were an elite shutdown defenseman all the way, even this year. You had a rough start to the 2018-19 season, but boy howdy, you and Colton Parayko were a machine on the defensive shutdown this entire last year. But it's sad to see Jay go like that, but I got to feel like he's done. So there's 3.25 you no longer have to worry about. Marco Scandella, on the other hand, his contract right now with St. Louis, anyway, is $2 million. And I really like Scandella as a Blue. I don't know if any of y'all are with me, but I like Marco Scandella as a Blue quite a bit. I think, unfortunately, though, if you're wanting to re-sign Pietrangelo, he's got to walk. Justin Falk's contract's going to kick up to 6.5. Who knows? Carl Gunnarsson's got a modified no-trade clause. Does he get traded? Robert Bortuzzo doesn't have anything. Do we just trade him? He's at 1.375. Vince Dunn is an RFA, and oh my lord, if you let Vince Dunn go, I mean, yes, the worst thing would be Alex Pietrangelo, but if you let Vince Dunn go, I think that's a really bad mistake by the Blues, and hopefully one that they aren't forced to make. Troy Brouwer, gone. Mackenzie McEachern, sorry, probably gone. He's an RFA next year. Sammy Blais, I liked you at the start of the season, but that wrist injury really set you back. So, going to say no to that. Jacob De La Rose, not even really in the lineup anymore. Sorry, bye. So those are your RFAs for this season. In terms of making trades, I mean, Brayden Schenn just signed the big extension. He's not going anywhere. O'Reilly He's the next franchise guy. He's not going anywhere. Alex Steen, no trade clause, so you're stuck with 575. Jaden Schwartz, a modified NTC at 535. And I like Jaden Schwartz. I think Jaden Schwartz has put up really, really solid effort this season. He's got 57. He's got 57 points this year, 22 goals, which is just shy of a career high. So in terms of Jaden Schwartz's production, I still think he's got a bit of a ceiling. This is just his 9th year in the NHL. I want to keep him. He is a UFA come 2021-22. But 535, still a lot of money. That's a player that could get you really high trade value. Again, I don't like to see that. I would probably rather see a guy like Tyler Bozak go, who has a modified no trade clause, and he's going at 5. Because Tyler Bozak, he was a great addition in my mind at free agency of 2018-19. His production since Toronto has really fallen off. I haven't really seen what I wanted or what I expected of him. And the guy is 33 and not playing top center minutes like he did over in Toronto. So I'll give him some excuse with that. But he was also playing on a previous Toronto teams that were bad. They were really, really terrible. David Perron, I hope you stick with David Perron. I think David Perron's really found a new groove. I think he's really slumped lately in the last 10, 15, almost 20 games. But I feel like, his effort is actually there this time. I know that was everybody's complaint, and I know I took a lot of heat for that when I wrote in that article about Perron going to Vegas. You can find that on bluesrants.com, by the way. I like David Perron's effort this time around. I think that, that huge travel to the Stanley Cup final in Vegas' first year was exactly what he needed to get the blood flowing and get some love for hockey again. And obviously winning the Stanley Cup then with St. Louis just a year later, that obviously does a whole lot more for you. He's obviously playing some of his best. Not quite the best. I think Vegas was his career high, but he's obviously been phenomenal for the Blues. One of their best players this season. We dubbed him Mr. Overtime in the first half for a reason. And he's on 4. He's on $4 million. I am more than satisfied with $4 million until 2023. Oscar Sundqvist, he's a good center. I think he does more for this team as just the offensive spark plug. He and Ivan Barbashev in particular, they're like the spark plug guys where if you got something going wrong, if we're not being physical enough, if we're not making the right plays, insert Oscar Sundqvist. And I think the biggest thing that nobody understands about Oscar Sundqvist is his hockey IQ. You watch some of the plays and some of the moves that he does, particularly with Ivan Barbashev on the ice. He is that guy when if everybody's out of sync, he's the one that gets the ball rolling. Because Ryan O'Reilly can do so much individual things by himself until the cows come home. Ryan O'Reilly just continues to prove that he's such a good Selke candidate each and every single year with his two-way play. And it was totally underrated until he came to St. Louis and won a cup. And proceeded to win the Conn Smythe. And proceeded to win the Selke along with that. But Oscar Sundqvist in particular, the way that he is able to, when you see that his game amplifies Ivan Barbashev's game, that is a sneaky, underrated trait about Oscar. It really is. I mean, think about it. Oscar Sundqvist, we traded for Ryan Reeves. And I love Ryan Reeves. But in terms of what Oscar Sundqvist does for the team, and what he does to amplify everybody's game, and what he does to act as that, now I don't want to say figurehead role, but as that role in, getting something going when everybody else is out of sync or just not playing well, Oscar Sundqvist is that guy you want to turn to. He is one of the longer tenured forwards. He's on until 2023 at 275, and I like that number. Do you shave his cap to try and make room for Pietrangelo? I don't know. If I were to want to trade anybody, it'd be first Tyler Bozak. Steen probably not going to waive his no trade clause. And again, that's just 575 that you're going to have to eat. He's been okay. He's been good in his role, but he's clearly not the player that he was back in 2014 and 2015, even back in 2013 when he was like the leading scorer for a few years. Jordan Kyrou, everybody was rumoring of him getting traded, for a guy like Chris Kreider as a rental. By the way, how many, now also another positive spin, how many teams are breathing a sigh of relief that they didn't make moves at the trade deadline? Like, we don't make a move for Chris Kreider or for Mike Hoffman. Yes, Chris Kreider gets the injury, and it's probably the best news ever for New York, that they've got a month-long hiatus where he could potentially come back for a last-minute push to the postseason. But the Blues don't make a move for him. Could he have come to St. Louis, get injured, and then all of a sudden we're just without a Jordan Kyrou, who I think is so sneaky, so good on those entries into the zone and just on those takeaways. He's just so good at steals and takeaways in the offensive zone and in the neutral zone. Defensive game, I'm still not crazy about. I don't really like, he's really, really not great at making those outlet passes to exit the neutral zone or exit the offensive zone. But could you imagine trading him for Chris Kreider and then all of a sudden we're just back to square one because Kreider is injured? You got him on an ELC and you got Robert Thomas on an ELC, both under $895K, basically. And Robert Thomas, don't you touch Robert Thomas. Don't you touch Robert Thomas. I think Robert Thomas and Vince Dunn in particular can get the new core of this team started. Yes, Alex Steen. Yes, even maybe David Perron. Yes to, Carl Gunnarsson. And who else even? I'm just trying to, bide for some time here. Those players were great for this core for, the 2010s or parts of, but at some point you have to move on and you have to get these new prospects. I think Robert Thomas, Vince Dunn, and maybe Jordan Kyrou are that. Also, by the way, Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou to become RFAs, they are not arbitration eligible. And then, of course, finally, you also have to think, the last thing of the expansion draft to Seattle. Who's protected and who's not. Right now, Justin Falk's contract is way, way, way out there. You've got a modified no-trade list for a good number of guys, a no-trade clause for Alex Steen and for Alex Pietrangelo. We know that Alex Pietrangelo is probably going to get upward of 9. That sounds like the number they're going to have to eventually reach. I think they probably threw 8-8, 8-9 at Pietrangelo's agent. He said no, and that's essentially where we've been for this entire time. Do they discuss it during this little month-long hiatus? I don't know. Everybody in the NHL is kind of twiddling their thumbs, so might be a good time to give the old agent a call and see where we go from this. But for the Blues, as far as who they protect and who they let go and who they trade in order to get Alex Pietrangelo re-signed. I think the biggest mistake at the end of the day is not re-signing Pietrangelo. He gets 2 more goals for you last night. Let's look up Roman Jossi's numbers while we're talking about Alex Pietrangelo. Let's see how well Roman Jossi's doing ever since he signed that contract. He is still first in their points. 16, 49, and 65 is his breakdown. Then Alex Pietrangelo, 16, 36, 52. Okay. Both pretty good. Both with 16 goals. Both elite defensemen, both captains for their respective franchises. Both, I was about to say both 30 years old. Roman Jossi's still 29. So late 30s. Goodness gracious, I'm getting all tongue twisted here. Both late 20s, early 30s, we'll call it. And again, I watch Roman Josi play from time to time. I still think Pietrangelo's season's going to be higher. I still get that feeling like Alex Pietrangelo is going to be able to elevate his game within the next year and a half. So in my mind, you have to find a way to sign this guy. Alex Pietrangelo. He's been with you for 13 plus years. He's raised your first cup. He's going to get his number in the rafters. I'm not even going to hear any other takes about that. His number's going up. 27 is going up. Mark my words today on this March 12th when we no longer have NHL for the time being. Now I'm running out of things to talk about because there is nothing to talk about. I could try talking about Cardinals, but they were just kind of in the thick of spring training. By the way, the if anybody's interested in baseball, @*Tour is the follow of the year. If you don't know, @*Tour is the 2020 Astros Shame Tour, which, by the way, the Houston Astros have to be kind of breathing a little sigh of relief for the moment. They have been following and documenting basically every single event or happening in every single Astros game and what's gone on basically because they cheated and the fallout of them cheating and their arrogance to be like, well, we're not really sorry. We say we're sorry, but we won, so it was worth it. But @*Tour on Twitter, absolute must follow. And they're so good. They've been retweeting so much hilarious stuff. I saw the Atlanta Braves had a phenomenal chirp at the beginning of warm-up when they played the Sign. That was a very, very clever move by the Atlanta Braves, and I will shout out for that. Well done. But it's going to be interesting. I'm debating how many episodes I want to do in the midst of this hiatus. Do you guys still want to hear from me? I want to hear from you guys. Like, what do we want to talk about? Let's talk about stuff. Can we talk about video games? A lot of people are saying they want to hear video game talk. Not specifically, blues rants, but guys like Two Guys, One Cup or, Bleeding Blue and stuff like that, or Damn Buffa. But, yeah, it's a really interesting time. Like I said, everything's canceled. Leave us a comment to see if whatever you guys want to hear about. I want to actually, have like a more positive spin on things like that. I don't want to just, be talking about the doom and gloom of the coronavirus and how we're all going to die. We're not all going to die. Everybody, don't freak out. But you can definitely hear my voice is starting to go, so I'm probably going to call this an episode. Again, #BRP, I still want to get it trending, although it probably won't. Thank you all very much for listening. I don't know where we're going to go from here. Maybe I'll do another episode at some point. But, yeah, just stay tuned for updates. Once again, my name is Philip Miller. You can follow all of our stuff on Facebook and Twitter, @BluesRantsCom. You can go on to bluesrants.com to get all of our local blues articles, recaps, insights, and more. You can find us on Instagram and Tumblr if you so wish. And that's going to do it for me. Thank you all very much for listening, and find something to bide your time while we don't have sports for a while. Take it easy, everybody. Wash your hands.